Yes, we are back with Inside Broadway, and we're going into the Broadway season already. We've had a couple of openings here. We've had Title of Show, I think, was from this season. And let's see, we just had 13 opening tonight.
Yes.
And then last week, and Tale of Two Cities, let's not forget that. Jill Santoriello was our guest last week. She wrote the music and the book for Tale of Two Cities.
Well, she didn't really write the book. She kind of adapted the book.
That's true.
And that's what I was surprised when I saw that play. I said, oh, really? We're taking credit for the story of A Tale of Two Cities?
Well, what? Who wrote Lerner and Lowe, they don't take credit for Pygmalion?
It says adapted.
From
well,
this is adapted from.
But it doesn't say adapted from anywhere in the book.
Boblil Schoenberg, really? That she doesn't give credit to Charles Dickens?
No. I was shocked because that was pretty funny.
But we're not talking about Tale of Two Cities tonight. We're talking about Equus, and we want to get our special guest on the phone. He's the executive editor of Backstage. Yes, the Backstage. His name is David SHEWARD. First of all, let's make sure we have him there. Davey, there?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for holding. Thanks for...
David, is it the Backstage magazine, or is it the Backstage paper?
It's a newspaper.
Oh, I know it's a newspaper, but...
And we have a website.
But do you call it just Backstage, or do you call it Backstage newspaper?
We call it Backstage.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up.
I don't know.
Actually, one thing I do wonder about Backstage of how the balance is now. I don't know if you know these numbers or these figures, but when I first started getting Backstage way back when I was an actor, there was no internet. It was just the newspaper.
Yeah.
Do you know what the balance is now of how many people actually still buy it on the stands or subscribe to it as opposed to people who just subscribe on the web?
Well, I do know that in New York, our circulation is 20,000. That doesn't include, pass along, where someone buys a copy and then they give it to a friend or whatever.
Oh, I Xerox about 15 copies just to save people money, yeah.
Right. And on the web, we have, don't know the exact figures, but we get something like 1 million hits a month. So that would be 1 million, times that a person accesses the site. It may be one person doing it a couple of times.
And Nielsen owns you guys now, right?
That's right.
Cool. So, and you've been there how long? Over 20
years?
Long
time.
Yeah.
About over 20 years.
So you started...
So since you were 9, right?
Yes.
You started in what capacity there, and now
I was a part-time editorial assistant when I started.
Wow.
I was an actor. I was trying to making a living as an actor, and I thought, gee, I'll get all the thing with Backstage is we have all the casting notices, and I thought, I'll get a leg up on everybody, and I'll know what casting notices are coming in.
Huh. And it just ballooned from there, and of course, Sherry Eaker is a good friend of mine. She was sort of your predecessor, although you have a kind of a different job title, I guess. But
she is our editor at large.
Okay. Are you on a cell or are you on a landline?
I'm on a landline.
Ooh, where?
In Queens, that's where I live.
Call your Verizon rep.
Your line needs a little work, but we got you. We're happy to have you.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, but I think
it
was 2 or 3 times your words kind of stopped because the signal broke.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to try another phone?
No, we're
not right now.
We're good.
So
let's get on to Equus, which I think we all saw last week.
I saw it 2 weeks ago.
Really? Okay. So, who loved it?
I loved it.
Okay. Why?
I loved this. Well, it's also memories for me because it was one of the first plays I ever saw. And it brought back a lot of good memories for me. And I love the play. I really do, even though I think it's a little dated. But it also... my big problem was with Richard Griffiths.
Who plays the psychiatrist who is trying to unlock the key to why this rather disturbed young man blinded 6 horses in a stable where he was working.
But I really like the story, and I like the way the whole show is written. Did you read the author's notes in the playbill?
No, I did not.
It's very interesting that when he wrote the play, he was told the story, just the facts of the story, by a friend of his, that this trial was happening about this boy who blinded the horses. And then he knew it actually happened, but when he went to look into it, he either couldn't find it or something, and then his friend died, so he had no idea about the story. Everything he wrote is just all the facts about the story are all made up in his head. But the actual situation is real.
Now, Dave Sheward, Jeff, you saw it with Richard Burton on Broadway, am I correct? Dave, you saw it originally way back when it was on its original tour?
It was I saw the touring production of the same staging that John Dexter did on Broadway.
Of the one that came to Broadway this time, you saw it. Has it changed very much on its way to Broadway?
No. What I'm saying is back in 1970-something, 76 or so.
Well, it opened, okay.
When I was in high school, it was on tour in Philadelphia. The production that Richard Burton did.
The Burton one, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, this was the tour of it, and it was starring an actor named Douglas Campbell, who was a Canadian actor, who was playing the Richard Burton. The role originated on Broadway by Anthony Hopkins.
Right.
So,
and that I saw in Philadelphia.
And by the way, other memorable people who played, it was Anthony Hopkins, Anthony Perkins did the role.
Anthony Perkins, right.
Yeah.
The psycho guy, yeah.
And you know my favorite person who did the role?
Who?
Who did it for a long time? Leonard Nimoy.
That's right, he did.
Wow. That's logical, actually. So
he did live long and prosper in that one.
Yeah.
So, David, what did you think of that original production that you saw, and then, again, how compared to this one?
Well, the original production, there were several elements that were very different. It's interesting that it's the same set designer.
John Napier?
Yeah, John Napier. Mm-hmm. It's the same set designer, but in the original production from the 70s, the audience members were seated on the stage itself in this new staging there in a sort of a balcony above the stage behind the action. And it was very intimate, and you sort of had this feeling that it was that everyone were like students or medical students at a lecture in a psychiatric hospital, and everything was like you were right there.
Did you sit on stage?
No, I sat in the audience.
Okay.
But it sort of gave the feeling that it was all happening right in front of you, and that it was real life. And that this production is not quite as intimate. It's more removed and more theatrical.
Very true.
It's almost more like a hospital setting or a hospital operating theater, because they've got audience members above the stage,
right,
looking down on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas in the original production, they were right there on the stage, and all the members of the cast came in and sat with the audience throughout the entire production.
And also, if I remember correctly, they also talked in the round rather than here. They kind of ignored those people up there.
Yeah.
And it was like almost pleading a case to. I sat on the stage and I kind of almost felt like a juror on the stage.
Okay. Well, but again, you loved it. You thought it all pretty much.
I like this because it brought back great memories. I think it's a great show.
Yeah, it's a very good production. I do think, however, that the director Thea Sharrock. Mm-hmm. I think there are a couple of things about it. I think that you had mentioned that it was a little dated, and I think that the thing with this play is, and like all of Peter Shaffer's other plays, it's sort of about the conflict between a sort of a sane, regular, quote-unquote, normal person versus someone who's insane or perceived as mad but has a great passion, and there's sort of this envy and jealousy of the mad, passionate person for the sane, regular person. We see that in Amadeus,
right,
where Salieri is very normal talent, and he's wildly jealous of Mozart, who is insane and scatological and uncontrollable.
Kind of like me, actually, yeah.
Yeah, but who has this uncontrollable talent.
Although Mozart was talented.
Thank you so much.
No, I'm saying that Salieri was, but Mozart was even more talented.
No, we were just comparing. Well,
you were comparing
Dave was kind of comparing himself to Mozart. So
he was comparing Lefkowitz to Mozart.
Yeah,
okay.
right. Not that big a stretch, I don't think. But as far as the datedness of the play, what disappointed me when I saw Amadeus, when they brought that back a few years ago with David Suchet, they did a revival of that on Broadway, and I remember seeing the original production, not even with the original cast, and thinking just how exciting, there was something thrilling and theatrical about it, and then seeing the revival and think, wow, there's a lot of narration here, and it just kind of sat there. At least with Equus, although I didn't see the original production, I knew the play, I'd read the play, I'd seen the movie years ago. It was, for the most part, thrilling when it wasn't kind of silly or it wasn't a little boring and overwritten with speeches. The other times were pretty exciting.
I do think that the other thing about this compared to the original production is that this production is a lot more sexual. I mean, there is the sexual element in the boy's relationship with the horses.
The horses, yes.
And it comes... And this production is very homoerotic. I mean, all the horses are played by these big, muscular, athletic actors with horse masks on. And there's a lot of homoeroticism
but I
in
thought
it.
It was the same in the 70s.
But it was more, they talked, I just had the feeling that it was more about religion and worshipfulness, and the fact that Alan, the boy who does the blinding, worships this god in his head, of this animalistic god of, and it was more about that sort of passion. It was about that and a sexual passion.
Okay, yeah, because
probably the religious aspect too.
Well, the fact that they took down the poster of the Christ and replaced it with the horse.
And in this production, I felt there was an emphasis on the sexuality, which is part of it, but it's not all of it.
Or as Alan Strang calls it, the ha-ha. That's when he has his orgasm, or this religious, ecstatic, horse equine, homosexual orgasm that he calls.
Or bestial, almost.
Yeah. Or this merging of man with animal.
Yeah, and that is what the doctor, played by Richard Griffiths, envies. He envies not necessarily this specific thing, but a passion that he does not feel for his wife or for anything.
I agree with Jeff about Richard Griffiths. I wanted a little more from him. I understood what he was doing. He was trying to be laid back. He wasn't going to be Richard Burton with a sonorous voice. He was going to be like more of a schlubby guy. Well, but his projection is difficult. He lisps worse than I do. And it was kind of, I kind of was like, come on, dude.
Yeah, it was, the very beginning was very slow. The exposition took forever.
Oh, that didn't bother me.
Say, I don't know, maybe it's because I know this, well, you knew the story too, so I don't know.
Well, we all think of Harry Potter.
I loved him. I thought
he was very good.
Yeah, me too. I agree.
It was very impressive for someone who has not done a lot of stage work. I think the only play he had ever done was a guest shot in this comedy thing. He did a little cameo in the play What I Wrote, and he played himself for like a little bit. But I thought he was quite impressive for someone who's not done a lot of stage work.
And it's a tough role.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's a very difficult
because
part.
a lot of his lines are like partial words and stuff.
Right, and am I the only one, though, who had a real one of my worst problems with this production was with Kate Mulgrew.
Oh, I hated her.
She was, she had done a one-woman show off Broadway a few years ago in which she played Katharine Hepburn, and I thought she was doing a Katharine Hepburn imitation.
Exactly. There was one scene she was absolutely atrocious. I didn't know what she was doing. Sorry?
I read a review at some point of The Seagull, I believe, or maybe it was something online that I read this where someone was saying when you have American actors with British actors in a production and everyone is supposed to be British, then the Americans tend to be to compensate get to be more British than the British. And I thought she was being so British and so proper, let's all have some and tea.
Yeah.
It sort of obscured the intention of the role.
Well, she came out like that, all stiff and British, and then she had a scene where she started literally like chewing the scenery, and I was actually shocked. That's one of the worst things I've seen, especially in a major production that I generally liked. And we got to kind of wrap this up, but I remember I did community theater on Long Island. This is going back about 15, 20 years. And we were a traveling theater, so we'd go to libraries and community centers. And what we would do is take these cubes in one particular show we did. And we painted them first, and then they became the chairs, they became the tables. We were always moving cubes every 5 minutes when a scene changed. And here I am along Broadway with, I'm assuming, a very expensive ticket, and a major new production with big stars in it. And they're moving cubes. Did that bother anybody else?
Nope.
Okay.
I know it's sort of the one set is supposed to be different settings. It's supposed to be flexible and all that.
Yeah. See, I like that. I like the fact that you had to, because in essence, it's a story. It's a man is telling a story, and you had to use all these different things for the cubes are just. there was a desk, a couch, or this or that. It was in his home. It was in his office. It was at the boy's home.
Yeah, it's elemental. I mean, we shouldn't, as critics, we should be happy that we're using our imagination.
I thought it was fine. I also thought the set was very similar to
the original.
The original one. The original one didn't spin.
Okay.
I don't remember the spinning.
That was the extra $500,000 the thing needed.
Yeah.
So all in all, Dave, you thought what about this Equus?
I thought it was a very good production. Some very fun acting. Some flaws in some of the casting with Kate. In some of the performances with Kate Mulgrew, overdoing it with the British, with being British, and but very fine performances from Daniel Radcliffe and Richard Griffiths. And it's not as exciting. I mean, it's very strange when you reach, I don't know everyone's age in this conversation, but you sort of reach an age where you've seen a lot of the shows that are on Broadway.
Right.
And because it's a safer bet to do revival, and you will have seen the original. And this, to me, does not compare. It's okay, but it's not as good. And I think that someone who has not seen the original will have a whole different take on it.
Cool. So that's funny. I figured it was just less because I was seeing it without Burton.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just,
but Dave saw it not with Burton on.
I saw it with another actor.
Yeah,
I know. That's what I'm saying. I just assumed that.
But it could also be that this particular play, like maybe the other Peter Shaffer plays, like the first time you experience them, it's wow, and then once you know it, and then a few years go by,
right.
It's like, well, he's a good writer, but he's also throwing smoke a lot of the time, or we just, the world has changed and we know a lot more.
Whereas The Seagull, which also opened this week, is still fresh and exciting and vital, and there are things in it that are new, depending on the production.
I haven't seen. I'm looking forward to it. I'm seeing this week, so I've heard only rave. Well, yeah. I've read a couple of near raves, but so that's coming up this week. And just to finish off with David Sheward, the executive editor of Backstage, you're also a member of the Drama Desk. You're former president of the Drama Desk. And you've written a couple of books. Please tell us what they are and how we can get them.
Did you say books? You made a funny, I didn't quite...
Yes, books.
I do have a new book coming out in about a week or so. Ooh. It is a biography of George C. Scott.
Wow.
It's called Rage and Glory, The Volatile Life and Career of George C. Scott. And it is the first complete biography of him. There was a book written about him in the 70s, but that is out of print. And it is published by Applause Theater and Cinema Books, and will be out in bookstores in a week.
In a week. That's wonderful. And available, obviously, on Amazon. And
yes, on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com and at finer bookstores everywhere.
Well, and what is the title of that again?
Okay, it's called Rage and Glory, The Volatile Life and Career of C. Scott.
Well, just substitute Scott's name for mine, and you basically have my name, too. Well, it's been glorious to talk to you.
Yours is Rage and
Desperation.
There you go.
Thank you. David Sheward, congratulations on the book. Great work, continuing work on Backstage, of course.
Thank you.
And best of luck with all your endeavor. Are you also on New York One still? I know you used to be on. Oh, when can people catch you there?
I'm on New York One on their show On Stage, which is on Saturdays and Sundays at 9:30 in the morning and 7:30 at night.
What time? 2:30 in the morning? Did you say?
No, 7:30 in the morning. Sorry, you got me all mixed up.
Sorry, I can. Your mic, your telephone.
Well, we heard you. You were on at 30 in the morning.
Oh, it's New York One On Stage on New York One, and it is on 9:30 in the morning and 7:30 at night on Saturdays and Sundays.
Cool.
And I'm on every other week, and it's also on Monday nights at 9:30 and 12:30 a.m. on Monday nights.
I suppose you have a website where people can kind of look all this info up.
We have Backstage.com, where I have a blog.
That's it. Backstage.com for all the information you need to know about David Sheward. And also thanking you so much for being in the neighborhood and being part of Inside Broadway reviewing Equus.